Happy holidays to everybody. Ron Bielefeld, Whistling Wings Photography. The Canon R6 Mark III. There's a lot of numbers out there now. R3, R1, R5, R6, R7, R8, right? The latest one, the R6 Mark III, I did an initial thoughts video on this just a little while ago. I've been shooting with it a bunch. That's all I've been shooting, the R6 Mark III. I want to get something out right away. That first video I did, my initial impressions, were an initial impressions. And I did not mean for it to be totally negative sounding at all. I think it's a great camera, especially for $2,800. I just wanted to point out that rolling shutter is a factor in this camera in 2025, going on 2026. So if you shoot fast action with things moving through the frame quickly, like wingtips of small birds, just be aware that you're going to get rolling shutter distortions and barring sometimes. But now, I've been shooting this a lot. I took a trip recently to visit a friend of mine up in South Carolina. We went out and did American oyster catchers and some other shorebirds that are wintering there now, and I shot the R6 Mark III, and I shot it 1200 millimeters. That's why I've got this thing up here. 600 millimeter f4 with the 2x teleconverter. And the more I shoot this camera, the more impressed I am with it. It is a great camera. The image quality is really good, I think. I think it's really great. And the noise, if you're really, worried about noise, this camera is excellent. And so I'm really enjoying shooting this camera. All the aspects of it. I shot exclusively electronic shutter for a while, and then I switched to mechanical shutter. And yes, I'm still having to pick out a few frames that, just aren't working because of the rolling shutter. But for the most part, I was really surprised, pleasantly surprised, that even on oyster catchers, which aren't big birds, they're not tiny little birds, but I did shoot some other things like western sandpipers and ruddy turnstones, and most of the frames are fine. No rolling shutter. You still got to pick around a few of those that aren't quite there with the distortion for rolling shutter. So anyway, really, really impressed with this camera. Especially, I wanted to see how it performed, 32 megapixels, 1200 millimeters. And I wanted to, and another part of this video, I want to just show you, it's just to show you so you're aware of it, the difference between shooting electronic shutter at like 20 to 40 frames per second versus mechanical shutter at 12 frames per second. The behavior of the viewfinder, the electronic viewfinder, it's different. Okay, it's very, very difficult, especially when the bird gets really big in the frame, for me to track a bird accurately and precisely using the mechanical shutter. There's some, I called it lag in the other video. I don't know a better term for it. It's not real time. Canon, you don't see blackout. You can shoot 12 frames per second. You're not seeing black frames in there or stuttering in there, but there's fill frames or something being put in there in between the actual live view of the bird that you're trying to track. And if the bird is, it's tough when you're shooting 1200 millimeters and the bird's getting big in the frame. You have to be able to pan very precisely and accurately to keep it in the frame and compose the frame. No problem whatsoever with the electronic shutter. I can pan accurately and precisely, and I can be, right on the bird the entire time, composing in real time. Not the case with mechanical shutter because of the lag or whatever you want to call it that's in the viewfinder when you shoot mechanical shutter, and I'll show you some examples of that. So first of all, let's talk about image quality of this camera. It's 32 megapixels, shooting the 2x and on the 600 f4. That's 1200 millimeters at f8. I was nothing but impressed. I know a lot of you do not like teleconverters, especially the 2x. Now the 1.4, you put it on this lens, and I don't notice much, if any, image degradation at all. You put the 2 times on this lens and you're saying, no. It degrades the image too much. I disagree. And you can look at some images right now that I'm showing you. They don't get any sharper than this. Now, I like my birds to be the size in the frame that I want them when I'm considering my final composition. When I'm out shooting, I'm thinking about what do I want to do here? I want to get my bird the size that I want it. I don't want to have to crop in. Now, we all crop. We have to a certain extent, most of the time. But by shooting 840 millimeters with the 1.4 or 1200 millimeters with the 2 times, I'm getting the bird bigger in the frame, closer, if not exactly the way I want it, for my final compositions. And then I'm taking full advantage of the 32 megapixels on this camera to get as many pixels as possible on that bird and rendering the detail I want. You take this off and you shoot just 600. Now the bird is like 4 times smaller in the frame than it would be with this. And you're thinking, okay, I'm going to rely on the 32 megapixels of this camera to be able to crop in and get the composition I want. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. There's still a limitation. You can't crop it. You can only crop in so much and retain the detail, at least the detail I'm looking for. This works for me. A little image degradation, sure, more than likely, there, but it's not that much. I think the trade-off is in favor of this versus large crops. Okay, that's the way I look at it. I'm sure many of you disagree. You can let me know about that in the discussion down below. But as you see from the images of the oyster catchers and a few other species here, I'm not disappointed in the image quality with this combination right here. Even at slower shutter speeds and poor light, you're thinking they're all good light. You look at these pictures, a lot of them are not in good light. It was cloudy. And then there was sunny. Both. 1200 millimeters, shooting flight shots of a relatively fast bird, relatively fast birds, at 1/1600th of a second, 1/2000th of a second, 1/2500th of a second, all the way up to, let's say, 1/5000th of a second. All the way in that range, good light, bad light, all that. Not disappointed at all. So now let's talk about the viewfinder behavior when you shoot electronic shutter versus mechanical shutter. Electronic shutter, H+, 40 frames per second. Electronic shutter H, high speed, 20 frames per second. Here's some clips made up of over 100 images as I'm panning with birds with the electronic shutter. And you can see that I was able to pan pretty precisely and accurately. And thus, shutter speed. You can get away with slower shutter speeds. The more accurate and precisely you can pan, you can get sharp images with 1200 millimeters even at relatively slow shutter speeds. You can compose in real time because you're seeing things basically in real time. The mechanical shutter, however, completely different feel and behavior as I'm trying to track the birds. And you can see from these, throw a couple of the series in here where I'm on mechanical shutter and the bird gets big in the frame and I cannot keep it in the frame because there's a delay of what's really happening. The bird is getting here and it's popping up and I'm behind. There's a behavior, I don't care what you want to call it. Canon, with their mechanical shutters at slower shutter speed, at slower frames per second, putting in fill frames or whatever in there, and you're not seeing things in real time as well as you are with the electronic shutter. Is it doable with slower birds? Stuff like that? Absolutely. Birds smaller in the frame, not so much of a problem. But if you're really trying to get your bird in the frame, the size you want it, filling the frame, and you're trying to keep up, mechanical shutter, it's going to be a lot harder. At least it was for me. So there's really, that's all I really wanted to cover in here. I just wanted to let you know, another update on shooting the new R6 Mark III, about what I'm finding as I'm shooting this camera. Again, I really like it. I like this camera. And I mean, as far as noise and stuff, I'm super impressed. It's better than the R5 Mark II. Of course, it's 32 megapixels versus 45, but there's that trade-off there. 45 megapixels, the higher megapixels, the higher resolution doesn't do any good if it's noisy and the noise is obscuring that detail that you would capture with that 45 megapixels. And with 32 megapixels, it's less noisy, and you know what I'm getting at, right? There's trade-offs here. This is a great camera, and I'm hanging on to it for a while. I'm going to see what happens here. I still want to see how much it affects my photography, getting the images I want. The electronic shutter, which I need it because of the panning thing we just talked about, the viewfinder behavior. The frames per second is necessary for things that I do, really fast action, capturing as many frames of that action as I can. The rolling shutter. I want to see yet how much of a problem that's really going to be for me. And I'm not totally sold yet that it's going to be that, it's going to be a deal breaker for me, because there's so much I like about this camera. So I'm going to leave it with that. I hope you're having a great holidays. Please have a great holidays. Be safe out there. Get out and take some pictures. I hope you have great light. Hey, why don't you subscribe to my channel if you like it? That would be a great Christmas gift, holiday gift to me. Until next time, I'll see you soon.